Thinking Basketball Podcast. My name is Ben. Welcome back. It is time, Cody. We've put it off long enough. We're a month into the season. We need to talk about who the best NBA teams are, who's going to win the championship. This podcast has a very important precedent because we come out swinging every year, and it's rare that throughout an entire course of a season we change the pole position on who we think the inner circle title contenders are. Some seasons are a little more variable than others. This might be one of those seasons where there could be 7 or 9 or 12 teams that can win an NBA championship. Or maybe it's the top 2, 3, 4 leaders in the clubhouse trying to just chase down that title and everyone's following them. What's it going to be, Cody? What do you say? Who are the inner circle title contenders this season?
I'm a little nervous right now because I think at one point last year, I said there's a 99% chance that the East would be represented by, I think I said the Cavaliers and the Celtics. I feel like there's a third team.
No,
you said for sure.
You said I believe you said the Cavs and the Celtics, and I think we had some post-show discussion about that.
We may have.
Yes, because that jumped out to me. It wasn't worth going into at the time, but it certainly looked like that, but there were other teams lurking. There was a team lurking that ended up making it out of the conference. So, but 99%, that's still not 100. It's pretty good.
That's true. So I guess I wasn't technically like Nate Silver would come out here and be like, oh, the model was okay. Like I gave the 1% sliver in there. Nate Silver with the sliver. But I just don't know. I'm trying to look in the rear view and see which teams might have the potential to have that breakout. So I hope that's a conversation we have at some point. But I think we have to start in the most obvious place. And right now, Ben, let's just get the marker out right now, put them right in the center of it all. The Oklahoma City Thunder have to be the beginning conversation for the inner circles for the 26th season.
Do you think they can win 74 games?
74 games. So what would that mean? That they lose 8? So they go 74 and 8?
Yeah.
I mean, they're missing their second best player.
They don't need their second best player. Have you seen them play?
I haven't watched as much as I should have. I watched the first game of the season, and then I watched, I think, a couple of those early ones just to like make sure the Thunder were thundering, and things were great. And I know everyone's talking about the AJ Mitchell discussion. Listen, I don't like the people that come out and are like, I'm a hipster. I knew this before everyone else is cool and whatever else. There's a note in my 25 notes where I'm like, bring up AJ Mitchell. Like, this guy is really good off the bench. And then he was injured and I never brought him up. So I wish I could go back a year ago and be like, everyone watch for AJ Mitchell. But no one can believe me. It's okay. It's fine. But, Mitchell was there. The left hand is cool. He's got a herky-jerky little style. But overall, I don't know, Ben. This Thunder team is looking nigh unbeatable again to start the season.
I'm most interested with Oklahoma City in where their record is in about a month, because all the way to that 70 win march, I've seen it a couple times in my lifetime. Even the 97 Bulls, I watched every game the 97 Bulls played, except the time the power went out during a thunderstorm and they lost to the Miami Heat in a very close game. You guys can basketball reference that one to see what happened there. And they end up 69-13, and they were right there for another 70-win season. It's remarkable that they almost won 70 back-to-back. But my point is, with all these teams that win 65, 66 games, the Garnett Celtics that we talked about a lot over the summer, I think they're back-to-back years. It's starting like 28-2 and 29-3 and things like that. But then to get into the meat of the season and keep going, and keep the accelerator down, and these days stay healthy. So I just want to put it out there, obviously, because they look fantastic and they're not even healthy. Chet Holmgren looks absolutely, he's just going to be an all-star. And then how many all-star slots can you give to the Oklahoma City Thunder? You mentioned Mitchell. He looks great. Shai looks fantastic. Shai has quietly become one of the less foul drawy players it's weird. Shai was like, I'm ahead of the curve. I push off a little. I use these moves. And now this year, everyone does it on every possession. And Shai's like, wait a second. I thought, anyway, that's a discussion for another time. So yeah, Oklahoma City Thunder, obviously in the innerest of inner circles for title contenders. Who else would you like to put in that inner circle?
Well, let me ask really quickly here. For the Thunder, the theory with the Thunder being such a terrifying team over the next however many years that they might be contenders here is the fact that they're all so young. So it's like, what are they going to come back and show year after year? How are they going to stay hungry and whatever else? What are some key improvements beyond AJ Mitchell that you're seeing among the individual players? Like, is there anything with like Chet, for instance, that you can point to and be like, I was wondering about this after last year's playoffs, and right now he's starting to show me a little bit more of that. Is there anything like that you can think of with the Thunder?
Well, Chet looks great. I think his offense looks more polished. So a little strong. We've talked about Chet's strength being a big factor. And in his case, I think it's a little bit more strength. And then that strength gives you more balance. So you can play on the outside, up fake. He's been incredible getting to his pivot, meaning a couple dribbles into the lane. And then I can pivot back, hit a little fadeaway, pass out of that. He and Hartenstein just have such great chemistry, flashing to the middle, playing high-low, hitting cutters. Holmgren's touch looks fantastic. The shot improves. The game slows down for you. So we even mentioned like his defense, his defensive player of the year level defense. That would be a normal thing if we didn't have Victor Wembanyama in the league. Of course, I mean, Victor Wembanyama is going to miss a couple weeks or something with this calf strain. I mean, I don't even know what to do. Do we do a Wemby watch? What do we do? I'm falling apart mentally here.
No, I woke up to that news. I saw that, and I'm pretty heartbroken about it because the Spurs are my usual, like, I guess who I'm going to watch tonight are who the Spurs are playing tonight. And now I have to watch some other teams now, Ben.
I because you're in a different time zone, I actually woke up to the preview part of Kobe's coat. We're not even talking about the Lakers today. Just, my gosh. Cody's text where he was sending me the information on Wemby's injury. And so all I saw is we live in hell. And I was like, well, what did the country fall apart? What's happening? That's what you expect these days.
And it's actually about Wemby's injury. It was
about Wemby. It's true. It's actually the worst possible news anyone could receive. Yes.
You shouted something out that I want to highlight for a second, because there was a period of time when the NBA went away from having the double bigs and there was a lot of small ball and stuff like that, where the art of the high-low big passing, a la the Tim Duncan and David Robinson are the duo that I think about right away. Kevin Garnett's so good at throwing some of these high-low types of passes. And there was a period of time that you just didn't see that quite as often because of the geometry of offenses playing in that way. But the Thunder have really brought it back. And that's one of the beautiful pleasures of watching the Thunder's offense for me, is them just having this throwback. Like, you got the big up top at the nail, you got the other big, maybe going in for a seal, hanging out in the dunker spot, something like that. And the combination, the synergy of Chet and Hartenstein with that. It's really something beautiful to watch, Ben.
They can both pass, and they're both smart in ways that are very subtle and very. There was actually one play the other day where Hartenstein's so good at feeling when the angle to set a screen and when to leave, and it might have been an AJ Mitchell pick and roll, the aforementioned AJ Mitchell, and he's like changing the angle and turning it around, and then he just sprints out of there early. And I rewound it. I was like, that's interesting, because he was in a position where he could have got a good hit on AJ Mitchell's man, but he read two things. He read that AJ Mitchell didn't need the hit. He already had faked his man out a little, and then he read his own defender in the situation. And by sprinting early, he drew his defender right out of AJ Mitchell's way. And I'm just like, that is the most Isaiah Hartenstein. So the two of them out there, Mitchell, the other night they were running Shai, Cason Wallace, AJ Mitchell, and the two bigs. And I was like, this is a 70-win team. This is world beaters. This is incredible. So OKC, we'll keep an eye on them as the season goes on. Obviously there. Do we dare stick another team in the inner circle? I have one.
Okay. Oh, you have one.
Yeah, go ahead. No,
I'll share.
No. I want to hear your thought.
So what I was going to say is it's really tough to say there's another inner circle team, because to me, it just feels like the Thunder are so in marker. But I do think there's another team that I have to toss in there right now.
They're in the Western Conference, right?
Yeah, and I have to lead with a question about this team. Did Nikola Jokic get better?
Yes. The Nuggets would be my second team in the inner circle, and I really don't know what's going on with Nikola Jokic. He simultaneously is rounder than he's been since before the bubble, but also his conditioning is just phenomenal. His beard has powers now. I don't know if you've noticed this. He played a game against the Los Angeles Clippers. Did we talk about this game? Did this happen in the last week?
No, we need to talk about this right now. Absolutely.
Okay. I have never in my life, in a single basketball game at any level, seen a player make scoring look easier than Nikola Jokic did against the Clippers. He missed his first 2 shots, and then he went 18 of 21 from the field. And the Clippers were like, we're not going to double you because we want to play you to be a scorer. We don't want to let you carve us up with your passing. And so we're just going to play you straight up. And Jokic kind of caught wind of this strategy at some point in the first half. And he's like, well, okay, then I'm just going to go hook shot, step back, spin, diddly do. I mean, the touch is unbelievable. The accuracy is unbelievable. I feel like he may have actually gotten better, which is a little strange.
So in that game, he scores 25 points in the first quarter. He doesn't score his first points.
First quarter, yes.
He doesn't score his first points until the 8:36 mark. So he scores 25 points in about 8.5 minutes of gameplay in the first quarter. Now, here's the thing. I actually want to come to the Clippers' defense here for a little bit because the Clippers were in it. Like, if you go back and you watch the game, you don't see, like, I don't know if I can count maybe even one, maximum one, maybe 2 Jokic like phenomenal type passes because they absolutely were like, all right, we're going to make this guy beat us. And Jokic did. He's like, all right, Brook Lopez is in. I'm going to force him to get a foul and he's going to get another foul. And no, I'm just going to turn around and launch this little I'm going to go to the post with this little hook shot. But the Clippers were battling. And I think they actually took the lead at the beginning of the second for a little bit when Jokic went to the bench. They ultimately didn't win that game. But overall, when I look at some of the numbers from Jokic, I mean, it just doesn't even make sense. According to play-by-play stats, like Jokic is shooting 83% at the rim. 83% at the rim this season. Short mid-range, he's shooting 65% from short mid-range. Long mid-range, he's shooting 85% from long mid-range. I mean, if you've seen him miss a long mid-range jumper this season, you've seen something quite rare. So you should count yourself lucky there. Do I think like the long mid-range is going to hold? Is he an actual 85% long mid-range shooter? No.
Yeah, yes, he is. Yes.
But there does
What do you mean no? Have you seen him play?
There's a level of just dominance and knowing when to go to the scoring more that I don't remember in a couple of past seasons. And that's just what I've taken away from this is now I feel a lot more comfortable with the role players. And I think he said sort of the same thing. They have Bruce Brown back. They have some other guys that can cover. Peyton Watson's a little bit older. Jamal Murray has started off the season better than I remember Murray starting a season the last couple of years. And this team is scary. And I do not think you can just like Sharpie the Thunder into the finals as long as the Nuggets are nuggetsing.
Yeah. The Nuggets are my second team. We can talk a little bit more about down the roster 2 through 14 or 15 in a second. But this guy, Jokic, so for our Patreon subscribers, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball, we can finally lift the stats moratorium, right, Cody? We're over the 10-game mark.
We can look at some stats now.
Okay. So you mentioned his short mid-range and his long mid-range. We have talked about him possibly being the greatest mid-range shooter when you consider the short mid-range of all time, or at least on record going back into the 90s when we have this kind of shot location data. Do you know his overall, all of his mid-range shooting this year? He's taking 7 attempts every 75 possessions.
Okay.
Do you know the percentage?
I do not know.
Okay, would you like to guess the percentage?
Overall, so you're talking short mid-range and
long mid-range, yes. So, yeah.
Okay, so I just said 65. I mean, it's got to be like, is it like 72% or something?
69%. He's shooting 69% from mid-range. The next thing that stands out, which is just not normal, is he's averaging 30 points per 75 possessions. He's averaging 30 points per 75 possessions. How many percentage points ahead of league average is he in his true shooting percentage? That's his free throws and his threes and his twos, or if all his shots were converted to twos, if you'd like to think of it that way. How many percentage points ahead of the league is he averaging on his scoring?
It's got to be like plus 13. Plus 13.
It's plus 16%. It's plus 16%. Now, the Nuggets are 26 points per 100 better when he plays, and this is the important number to segue us back to the team. They are outscoring people by 19 points per 100 to start the year when Jokic plays in the game, when he's on the court. When he plays in the game, when he's on the court. Let me see if I can get my sentence right. When he plays on the court. Why can't I say the sentence? This is the second straight episode. My brain is just completely self-destructing. They are a fun team. Mm-hmm. They have this zone defense that they like to go to quite a bit. I think they're first and second in the league in zone possessions, and it builds off the zone that David Adelman had them playing in the playoffs last year. You mentioned Jamal Murray. He looks really good. I don't know if he's ever going to be bubble Murray. There was some magic there, and that was 5-6. That was six years ago at this point. But this is just about as good as he's looked since he injured the knee. And usually as slow starts to the season, he looks great physically starting the season. His shots dialed in. He's strong. He's in great shape. I think he's talked about coming into camp in some of the best shape of his career. And then Aaron Gordon.
That's the guy.
I mean, my goodness, Aaron Gordon also looks like he could be an all-star, and we know he's such a versatile piece for this team, defending multiple positions, playing different roles in the playoffs at times, bringing it up and initiating the offense when needed. The shot seems like it's exploding. I don't know if it's going to hold up, but he's shooting like 47% from three as of recording this. And then they actually finally have depth in the right role players, Bruce Brown, Peyton Swatson, et cetera, down the roster. So, yeah, this is a really good team.
I mean, if you look at the last couple of seasons, I'm trying to look at this. Basketball Reference has changed the way they show some of this, but I think he's played 63 regular season games the last 2 seasons. He's shooting 44% on threes during that time. And I think in the playoffs, he also shot above 40%. So I don't necessarily think Aaron Gordon's like a mid 40% 3-point shooter, but if he's actually like 39%, 40%, and it's sustainable, that unlocks so much more for him. And there's, again, something else to what he's able to do out there. It's not necessarily that he's initiating and setting up his teammates where he's diming people up, but it does feel like he's taking a little bit more of the burden of like, I'm going to bring the ball up and then some other plays are going to develop. I'm not going to set the guys up, but I'm going to get off the ball and do whatever else I'm doing. He has been just spectacular to play. And I really can't think of too many other players that have landed in the perfect position for themselves and have completely actualized to the point that he has. Like we saw Aaron Gordon in Orlando running tons of pick and rolls and trying to develop that way. And every year it's like, man, is Aaron Gordon never going to be what we want him to be? He goes to Denver and we're like, oh, this is a great little match for him. But every year he's added more in the sense that he just looks even better within their ecosystem. So major shout out to Aaron Gordon. And like you said, I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting more all-star buzz as we get closer to that. And I know Nuggets fans are like, if someone's getting it an all-star buzz, like Murray's got to get number one. Like he's got to get there at some point. But Aaron Gordon has to be in the conversation this year.
He's been fantastic. So those two teams are in the inner circle. Would you like to put a third team in the inner circle, or is it going to be a 2-horse race for now?
So, okay. Can I ask you about a team?
You can ask me about the Rockets. Yes, go ahead.
What do you feel about the Rockets?
They're really good.
They are really good.
They're really good. I have no hesitation whatsoever in thinking that they can compete for the 1 seed, depending on how things shake out with health and injury and whatnot. They're a really good regular season team, and I don't think they're going to be easy to eliminate in the playoffs either. I have not fully decided where they fall on this line of our traditional inner circle candidates, entirely because their offense is very interesting, and I'm not sure how successful it's going to be in the playoffs relative to how successful I think it can be for the rest of the regular season. Does that make sense?
What are some things that you're seeing from them that you're afraid won't transfer quite as well once the playoffs begin?
Well, the half-court offense isn't phenomenal itself. They get so much with the second chance opportunities, and maybe you can make the argument that in the playoffs, the second chance opportunities will still be there, and so the offense will still be pretty good. But the you mentioned this. They get a lot of transition. And if you look at their half-court offense, it's, I want to say, 13th on our board for members this morning. And that's solid. They're a solid offense. But stylistically, remember, that's 13th against just the opponents that they've played. So when I really think forward facing, when I think of the playoffs, when we start to get really into our great game series that we do for members, where we take the matchups and we look at what's happening on film, you can't use stats against the 20 bottom teams in the league. And oh my goodness, is this a weird distribution of teams this year? Our old friend Neil Payne had a great article on his Substack, Cody, that you shared with me, where he's basically saying this is the most lopsided distribution that we've had in recent times where the top teams are winning a bunch of games because there's so many bottom teams underperforming and pumping in a bunch of wins into the league. So I want to see Houston's offense against the other contenders and against the better defenses that they're going to meet in the second and third round of the playoffs. And that's when I'm going to decide. And I can get into the specifics quickly if you want, but that's where my head goes.
Well, just to take a little detour here for a second because of Neil Payne's article, from my perspective, what's made it really difficult to scout some of these teams so far is I'll see a team, for instance, it's like, oh, wow, this team's really on a roll. The last few games, their offense is unbelievable. Their defense is unbelievable. And then I pull up their last few games in NBA League Pass or something. And, not to besmirch like any fan bases, but it's like, all right, their last 5 games, they played Brooklyn, they played Utah, they played Brooklyn again, they played Washington. Maybe there's like an Orlando in there, and then they played the Pelicans. And I'm like, well, I'm not really going to learn much from watching them play some of these teams because what the Wizards are losing, but like the negative 14 net rating or something like that, like 14 points per 100 possessions. I don't know if it's quite that bad, but it's in the 13 range. It's
how dare you besmirch the great city of Washington like that?
Listen, I thoroughly enjoy watching Alex Sarr play basketball. I think that dude is really cool.
He's good.
And I will tune into some more Wizard stuff, but I'm not going to use them as like a serious scouting report when I'm looking at some of these teams. So I think we need more sample as the season goes, because I think some of the things like on the thinkingbasketball.net database, when you see adjusted offensive rating or adjusted defensive rating or offensive rating against the top 10 teams or something like that, those are the numbers that I think we're going to have to start skewing towards more instead of just citing a raw net rating sort of stat.
Yeah, and the difference between those things is large because what you're describing feels like it's happening with every team. My first thought after reading Neil's article, great article, by the way, if you haven't read it, is basically, is this just a statistical quirk where like the top 15 teams keep playing the bottom 15 teams? It's been very hard for me to find games where 2 good teams are playing each other in a way that feels completely anomalous. I can't even say words today. Completely anomalous. I don't ever remember every top team. I'm like, okay, let's go. I guess that team didn't play anyone good. Let's go to the next team. Same thing. What's on their schedule? Again, not to do the besmirchment, but you're seeing a lot of, okay, yes, they too also played Utah and Charlotte and Memphis and Sacramento and New Orleans and Washington and Indiana. How does everyone have the same schedule? Oh, they played Dallas. That doesn't count either.
Yep.
Yeah. So the specific things I'm going to be looking for with Houston that we may come back and talk about later in the season is, without Fred VanVleet, they're routing a lot of the offense through Alperen Şengün, playing at the elbow, playing 2-man game with Kevin Durant. Şengün's been awesome. He's been really, really good initiating that offense. But it gets a little clunky at times, and I'm not sure it has a high ceiling in the playoffs. I wouldn't say it has a low floor, right? It might have a decent floor, but that's what I'm thinking about is how does this actually work against a playoff team that gets to see you every night and you're just trying to bang 2-man game, Şengün power moves into the paint.
And I don't want to call on just one specific game that I saw, but if you go back to the Spurs Rockets matchup from almost like a week and a half ago or something like that, I think the Spurs end up winning by 11 or something like that. And you can see the perimeter defense that the Spurs are able to throw out there. They really ratcheted up guys like Steph Castle. Oh my God, Steph. I mean, I'll still watch the Spurs because he's one of my favorite watches.
Steph Castle's injured. He's out for 2 weeks.
Wait, when did that happen?
That happened. Well, sometimes we got to spin up the recording technology and alerts come in.
Okay. Well, I guess I'm now watching the Spurs for a couple weeks. But anyway, they were able to dial up the defense. And there were a couple of times I flagged, like I wrote down in my notes. I'm like, oh, here's the Kevin Durant passing issues under duress. Right. And I think that's the kind of thing that you'll see more in the playoffs. Like we saw physicality. You and I talked a little bit at the beginning of the playoffs last year, maybe even midway through, where it's like, is this level of defense actually a little bit dangerous? Are we going a little too far? And I think offensively, I don't know how the Rockets would be able to handle that. Reed Shepherd has looked better as of late, but like bringing it up even more against like the Thunder, for instance, where you're just throwing this maniacal defense that's all over the place. I don't know how they'd be able to handle that. So I'm with you on this, where I have them right now. If I'm saying tiers, they're still outside of the inner circle. I couldn't quite comfortably put them in there because I do have some questions about how their offense will be able to handle like playoff level intensity.
Okay, so I guess we'll call this next group just outside, because I feel like Houston to me is a little bit on the other side of those first two teams that we talked about.
Yep.
We're still in the West. I'm going to fold an Eastern Conference team in if I can. Can I bring the Cleveland Cavaliers into this group, or is this too soon for you?
So this is maybe a little bit cheating.
Mm-hmm.
I think a couple of these Eastern Conference teams are going to get a bit of a boost because one of them has to make it. Like one of these Eastern Conference teams is guaranteed to make the finals, and anyone in the West that's not the Nuggets or the Thunder are going to have to get through the Nuggets and the Thunder.
What? I cannot wait for the hate mail we get. And the hot take that one of the Eastern Conference teams is guaranteed to make the finals. But let's talk to the league first and confirm that this is going to happen.
I don't know if this is hot. I think the Cavaliers have a better chance of making the finals than the Rockets.
Yeah, no, I like what you're saying. Yeah.
So I think in terms of what you're saying, yeah, the Cavaliers are closer, but like saying they're inner circle, I could almost accept an argument based on the fact that like, yeah, let's look around and see what their competition is going to be. But I don't want to give somebody inner circle berth just based on the fact that there's a technicality because they play in the Eastern Conference. But I think if there is a team in the East, the Cavaliers are at the top of my list.
Okay, so we've got our inner circle. We've got our two teams. We have the sort of just outside circle that we're talking about with Houston and Cleveland. Is there a third team in that circle, or do we then go to sort of the larger upper middle class of the NBA?
Do you want to talk about the Cavaliers much at all, or were you just kind of saying like they looked great last year? We're waiting for Garland to really get healthy. We got to see the season continue. What do you think?
They have not been healthy.
Yeah.
Part of me thinks they are now a playoff specific team, meaning they're not going to try to win 70 games in the regular season, even if they could. They don't need to worry about playing out over their head. They also had a sort of X's and O's edge on the league last year with some of their pick and roll concepts and their movement off ball that we talked about in video format. And now the whole league does that. So this is that thing where you get out in front and then the league catches up, and now your relative edge efficiency wise from running that play isn't quite as big. So I'm not expecting them to set the world on fire in the regular season. I'm expecting them to have a very good regular season. What I'm looking for is the classic, hey, did you realize when these guys were all healthy, they had like a plus 17 net rating, that kind of thing. And then how can they take the experience and the reps that they've had in the playoffs and bring them to a playoff setting in a way that they haven't. Evan Mobley continues to look a little bit better offensively. You mentioned Garland. He's been injured on and off for so many years now. It feels like maybe Jared Allen's added a little more to his offense. Maybe that's the difference when you get in one of these Eastern Conference playoff series. So I don't entirely know what to make of them yet. I haven't seen them a ton, but I'm kind of confident they're lurking. They're right there in the East. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think a number that points to this is when Mitchell and Mobley are on the court together so far, they have a plus 10 net rating. Small sample still, but plus 10 is good when you have your two best players. And to the Mobley piece of it, I think his main improvement so far, sure, he'll knock down some threes. I don't think he's bending defenses at this point, and in the playoffs, they'll definitely just let him fire away. But his handle to me seems so much tighter. It almost reminds me of 2014, 2015-ish Blake Griffin is all of a sudden just like busting out these handles. He's getting to the basket. And you're like, wow, this is a tight handle for a big man. I feel the same kind of way with Evan Mobley, where somebody comes to try and strip him and he doesn't just pick it up. He keeps the dribble going and he gets to the basket. And I think this is reflected in higher free throw rates for him this year. And to me, that's the biggest part of it. The passing, I don't necessarily know if his vision and decision-making is better, but because he's able to keep the dribble going, I still see some of this high low that I talked about with Chet and Hartenstein that you brought up earlier. So yeah, some cool growth from Mobley there, and that might help alleviate some of the burden from somebody like Mitchell or Garland when they get the playoffs. So yeah, lurking for sure, and I think probably the best chance in the Eastern Conference to make it to the finals right now.
Okay, is there another team you would like to include in this just outside category, or are we moving down to, I guess, what I'm thinking of as the upper middle class?
So I started in the preseason pod, and I think I put the Knicks in the same area as the Cavaliers.
That's the team I'm asking about. Let's just be very clear. Okay, the Knicks are the gray area team here.
How do you feel about the Knicks right now?
I don't have a lot of strong feelings about the Knicks. The Knicks have great talent. We saw it in the playoffs. OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, they're gamers. They're going to do that. They're going to ball out. I don't know how I feel about anything happening in New York. When I watch them, I'm like, that's the New York Knicks playing basketball. I could put them anywhere here.
I tuned in. I don't remember if it was the first, but it was one of the games when Brunson was out, right? And I was like, this is actually an interesting game to check into because I want to see what their offense is going to look like when they're not doing the Brunson ball pick and roll heavy sort of sets and whatever else. I was not impressed with what I saw, right? There was a lot of kind of moving the ball around. Karl Anthony Towns catches up top, and then he started off like really strong. Like the beginning of this game that I'm trying to pull up right now, it was against the Heat because both Bam was out for the Heat and Brunson was out for the Knicks. And there was just so many possessions where I'm like, all right, Towns is just kind of bailing them out. And he was. His shot was dialed in. He was taking a ton of threes. He was like, fine, whatever. I'm in the moment. I'm going to create all this. But the system itself didn't make me feel particularly confident. I wanted a little bit more Mikal Bridges creation. Sure, the dribble pull-up mid-range is still there, right? Some of the other guys are catching and shooting. Landry Shamet is able to run off some actions. He's coming from one side, gets to the corner, boom, hits that three. But I don't know. And if they're not going to be that particularly effective without Brunson, I'm not feeling as hopeful as maybe I did in the preseason. So maybe I want to slot them down a little below the Cavaliers.
I say we do a Bill Simmons move.
Oh, okay.
A classic Bill Simmons move. I say we create a one-team tier called the Knicks, and we put the Knicks in the tier.
So right now we have the Rockets and Cavs in a tier, and then there's its own separate tier that's just tier Knicks.
That's the Knicks.
It's the Knicks.
Because I don't know what to make of the Knicks, and they are a very talented team, and they have high-end playoff talent, and they're good. And you know, if things click and stuff starts looking good, you have to move them up from where they are. And this feels like a position where they could be moved up. And if things don't go well, they could move down. Now, I think after that, we start to get to a bunch of teams that to me feel relatively similar in a group, and trying to parse sort of this like upper middle class, just straight middle class separation in the NBA right now feels kind of hard for me. Cody, what teams jump out to you when we drop down to the next level of team right now?
So I think we have to bring this team up because of their record. See what we have to say about them.
What
are your thoughts about the Detroit Pistons right now?
Yeah, they're good. They're
Yeah,
good.
they are good.
I think they're in this group. I get concerned when people start the season like 12-2, and I think they outperform where they are, you know, because you win 12 out of 14 games, you can do that. The Pistons did that last year. You can go on winning streaks, and a 50-win team will do that. And this year, maybe with what's happening with the distribution of the league and all these bottom teams pumping wins into the league, maybe the Pistons can win 54, 55 games. I think they're a good team. So they're probably in this group for me. You would have to, maybe we talk it through and we can differentiate, but I like where Cade Cunningham is as a player. He's a very interesting player. I think he's very good. They have not got Jaden Ivey back yet. They've sort of battled through some injuries, and the defense is solid. So, Jalen Duren is, he's improved offensively, and he's had a great start to the season as well. So, yeah, I think when you have that classic build, Cody, of like, we're a good defensive team, we know what our identity is, we fit into our roles, and then you can build around someone like Cade and company, that's a good team.
I'm sort of like the Rockets. They almost seem like a Rockets light to me. And it's not just because there's the other Thompson twin over there. Like maybe it is.
Yeah, maybe it is. Maybe it's subconsciously getting in your putty pillow sheets. Yeah.
But Cade to me, it's actually interesting if you'd say Cade is how he is compared to Kevin Durant or Alperen Şengün as offensive players. I think at this point, Cade is probably better than both of them offensively. I really like his passing game. We talked about that a little bit more, but he still makes me a little bit nervous in terms of it doesn't feel like he's able to get himself easy and efficient shots. He's not a particularly good, difficult shot maker, so he can't live on that kind of diet. Was that the Wizards, Ben? Was that the Wizards when he missed approximately 700 shots?
In a game? That was the game that went into overtime. We talked about that game from the craziest night of the year. Yeah.
Oh, that was part of that. So, you know, I'm nervous about that because of the Cade ball isn't going. I don't see a lot of other offensive creation. Like, sure, Jalen Duren has improved significantly, like I was talking about with Mobley, with the dribble drive game, and he's just such a power guy. Good Lord, Ben, some of the dunks that this guy can throw down, he just gets within a couple feet of the basket. He is just throwing you down in there. And it's nice because he's not just waiting down in the paint for somebody to throw it up to him. He catches it up at the elbow. He puts in some moves. He has the shoulders. Get out of my way. Slam dunk, man. And that sort of stuff's really impressive. I'd be interesting to see how that holds up in the playoffs. So offensively is my concern with them. And defensively, I've been very impressed with what Cade does. So it's nice when your best offensive player also has some defensive juice. They're a team I wouldn't want to play in the East. Like, they're going to make some noise in the playoffs if they keep it up. But I still don't see them at being the level of the Cavaliers so far.
Okay, so let's forget we got our top teams sorted out. Let's use Detroit as a barometer. I think this is great. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to give you a team, and you tell me if you think they're better than the Pistons, worse than the Pistons, or you want to stick them right here in roughly this same level, this same grouping or tier as the Pistons. The healthy San Antonio Spurs.
Healthy San Antonio Spurs. Are we doing like somebody made the comment in the comments already. Are we doing like a strict power rankings or in terms of like finals equity? Because we talked about, the Spurs would have to get through some of those other Western Conference teams, or are we just saying straight up we're ranking the teams 1 through 30 or whatever?
I like, at this point in the year, personally, and maybe all year, I like a strict power rankings where we're going to decouple the fact that one team may be stuck on the other side of the bracket playing milquetoast, right? I just feel like if you're trying to stack up who the best teams are, you shouldn't be biased or influenced. I mean, what if we took all the best teams and put them in the West, and then we're like, no, inner circle title contender because they could get to the Washington Wizards could get to the finals mathematically, and then the other team could get injured and they could win the title. I don't think that's the spirit of the exercise.
All right. Well, in that case, I say the Spurs are better than the Pistons.
Spurs are better than the Pistons. Oh, so you would put them in a higher tier, or you just feeling very confident about that? Would you put the Spurs in the Knicks tier? Do we need a second team in the Knicks tier?
Oh man, that's really tricky. I don't know if I'm comfortable doing that, but I think the Spurs are at least higher to me than the Pistons in this exercise.
Okay. Let me give you another one. Okay. The Atlanta Hawks.
Can we talk about the Atlanta Hawks for a second?
Yeah. This is another team that can't get healthy. Can anyone get healthy? What is happening? It's making it impossible for me to scout.
The Atlanta Hawks rock. They are so cool to watch. Like, and I'm not even doing like trying to be buzzy about Trae Young being out, but with Trae Young being out, the lineups that they're able to throw out there. What did they start? What they start the second half with against the Suns the other day? There's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Reese-Shai, Jalen Johnson, and Okongwu, right? Those 5 out there. That's a big defensively slanted, flexible lineup that can do a lot of really cool things. And with the development of Johnson as an offensive player, I mean, his decision-making, like what impressed me the most with the way that he was playing when I was watching them is not necessarily he's making the best pass, right? He's not throwing the sexy lobs that Luka does. He's not slicing up the paint like Cade does, but he knew when to catch and immediately swing it to the next person. He knew when he's like, all right, I got to dribble up into this mid-range and hit this shot. I got to take this open 3. Just the snap decisions that he was making seemed so much sharper than I remember. And I think that's a really key part to what they're able to do, because all of these guys are just, able to create chaos defensively. And when you have like just big wings out there offensively, that's a weird style of offense to defend against. So they're just really cool to watch, Ben. I really like the Hawks.
Yeah, they're good defensively, right? I think that's the place to start. So it's almost similar to Detroit in that you have a lot of good adult bodies on the court at all times in the lineups. I mean, that lineup you just mentioned, maybe you could give Reese-Shai a young player tax or something like that, but Okongwu at this point is a really interesting pro. I mean, he's just a pro. He's a solid player. If he comes off as a backup, he's a solid backup. And then the other guys on the court that you mentioned there, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like these are just good players. You add in health and account for that. Could they be, I mean, with teams like this, Cody, what I do is I say, like, could you be a top 5 defense? And then where does that get you if your offense is above average? I don't know if they're going to be a top 10 offense. That's that. Do How do you feel about the offense?
Do you mean healthy? Like, are we including Trae Young in that?
Yeah.
That's really tricky. I don't know. Is it the Trae Young All-Star year? Are we in that cycle right now, or are we off right now?
Did he make it's because it goes on and then off, and I think we're in an on, right?
Are we? So if we look right now, Basketball Reference.
Yes, we can look. Yeah, we can look it up. Yes.
Oh, he was on the All-Star team last year.
Oh, then he's not making it. Forget that.
It's so based off that, I don't think they can have a top 10.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. So if you don't have a top 10 offense, I think to be here, you probably need an elite defense, and they're good defense, but it'll be really interesting to see if they can get everyone healthy, how good that defense could be. That's where I go with them in terms of trying to sort out where they belong in this conversation, because the Spurs, just for clarity, when Cody says, I think they're better than the Pistons, or, we'll see where I decide on them as we go through these teams. It's the fact that when Wemby plays, they have a really good defense. That's the difference maker.
I think, that's the key, is there's a clear identity. And the identity is that, like, there's this towering colossus and the other team doesn't know what to do with this. And when you have something like that just changes how the other team has to exist on the court, it helps you significantly. And the Hawks and the Pistons just don't have something quite to that degree.
I mean, a really good defense is an understatement. We didn't do our Wemby watch this week because of the injury, but I mean, when you're 11 points better than league average on defense with Victor Wembanyama playing, that is actually an incredible. You're like the Detroit Pistons from 2004. That's an incredible defense. So we'll see where Atlanta gets with that. Let me give you another team.
Well, I didn't answer your question. I think right now
you don't have to answer it.
I would give the Pistons the slightest of edges right now, just because I'm a little skeptical of the overall fit of Trae Young when he's out there, because they won't be able to roll out this like 5-out super flexible defensive lineup. And I think it's going to change a little bit of what they're doing offensively. And I just don't know what their identity is with full health Hawks. So based on that, I'm going to give the Pistons an edge right now.
Okay. Minnesota Timberwolves.
It's a complicated team, Ben.
It's a complicated team in the sense that they're the exact same team they've been for the last 2 years.
That's what's complicated about them.
Okay.
Is they're the same team, but this is the same team that's made the Western Conference Finals. And I think we talked about it a little bit, but I don't necessarily see them as being a Western Conference Finals level team. And I don't think I saw them that way the last couple of years. Julius Randle has looked very good. Like, there's something to the way that they're spacing the court, and they have this very clear drive and get some shooters out there and kick and get them open. And Julius Randle is really good at that sort of thing in the regular season. He can get his shoulder down, he can get into you, he can take some contact, and he makes some of those good reads, right? Like, we talked a little bit about the difference between an on-ball passer and then some of these other guys that can catch and just make quick decisions like that. Julius Randle is a talented on-ball passer that's able to leverage these guys like Dante DiVincenzo, who's squaring up like he's Ryan Anderson for like the 2017 Rockets or something like that, like 4 feet behind the 3-point line. So they have an identity offensively. They can really dial it up defensively. I think I probably have them slightly beating the Pistons out.
Right? Beating the Pistons as well.
I think so. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you disagree with me?
I'm not sure about that one. Yeah, I'm not sure about any of these. I'm taking this in as we go. I have a very fluid sort of idea of where these teams are going in my head as they slot in, which is why I'm just giving you the rapid fire sort of, how do you make sense of this? Are these essentially all in the same upper middle class of the NBA? Is there two separate groupings here when we kind of start to see everything take shape and everything crystallize? I'm not sure. Let me give you another fun one. This is a more fun one.
Okay.
Yeah. You want to ask me a question?
I do. Can I ask you a team? Can I turn the spotlight on you and see what you have to say about a team here?
All right. You know what? Let's flip roles. Let's do it. You start asking me about teams, and I will be in the pressure cooker.
Okay. We haven't talked about this team yet.
Mm-hmm.
I think we did early, maybe in another podcast.
Mm-hmm.
What about the Los Angeles Lakers?
The Los Angeles Lakers. Yeah. They are very interesting because they have not had their second best player this season for a single game, much like the Thunder. You may have heard of him. His name is LeBron James. Yes. I think
Is that
he's your favorite player of all time?
The father of Bronny James?
Exactly,
starter for the Los Angeles Lakers?
Yeah, that was so great. I turned the game on the other night and I literally yelled out loud. I was like, Bronny's starting. This is incredible. Bronny's starting on the Lakers and LeBron's playing for the South Bay Lakers in the G League. This is really quite a role reversal. I guess that's what happens when it's your 23rd season. But yeah, LeBron, he also helps them defensively because of his size and his IQ. And there is some question mark, I think, with his health. You know, he's been struggling with this issue for a while, and he's, as of recording this, he's going to start playing again, which looks great. But when you're going to turn 41 in a month, your body starts to betray you, Cody. That's just how it goes. I hate to give you some insight into the future, but that's what happens. Your body just starts randomly falling apart. So with LeBron not being there, I'm looking at the other parts and trying to figure out, okay, how good is Marcus Smart? How good is LaRavia? How is Ayton fitting in? And one of the big season-long sort of things we're keeping our eye on, of course, is Cody's bold prediction from the preview show that the Lakers will not have a top 20 defense. And one of my fascinations with them, besides the way the stars fit offensively, is I think with this new cast, I thought they would have a better defense. And so, you know, not a great defense, but I thought top 20 was pretty strong. It was pretty bold. So right now, when I look at their defense, I think JJ is getting them to play in a way where the effort's high, the connectivity's high, and having a guy like Marcus Smart or having an extra big body in Ayton, or maybe when you get LeBron back, I think there's enough there that they're above average defensively. If you look at our board for our subscribers, they're 13th in our adjusted defensive rating to start the season. That feels doable. And if you do that with a really good offense, I think you're better than this Detroit Pistons team, maybe, especially when we think about the matchups that those guys can create in the playoffs.
To be fair, when I made that prediction, I didn't realize there would be 8 teams you would have to put in marker for having the worst defense. Like, I thought there would be a normal distribution of defenses.
Okay, that is true. That is true. We might be seeing one of the all-time race to the bottoms in the history of the league. So we can curve and adjust, but it is, to me, I think it is one of the definitive things for the Lakers, because as of now, it doesn't look like the offense is going to be shockingly bad. So I do think that's a critical sort of stat for them to track.
I think a key part is men's health. Doncic coming out this season, I think he actually looks significantly more spry, right? Like offensively, you go back 2020, 2021 or something like that. It's shocking. Like he's flying to the rim. He's throwing it down in traffic. He's much more lithe, which you taught me how to pronounce last season. Much more lithe when he's getting to the basket, you know, knifing his way across all of the defenses. Whereas like maybe last year, the end of the year before, there was so much more bully ball. There was just like, I'm going to get to my spots just based on my slow Kyle Anderson kind of pace where I'm going to get wherever I want. But I'm seeing much more of pass, maybe a little bit more relocation. And defensively, Ben, you called it out. You called it out in the preseason, really dialed it up, really communicating a lot more. And I've seen him sprinting back on defense just to disrupt some passes once in a while, which is something that, you go back to that Celtics finals, that sort of stuff was not happening. I know, everyone relax. I get it. He was injured, blah, blah, blah. But still, you weren't seeing it in the finals, and you are seeing it now. So I think when you have the buy-in for somebody like that, and when he has the physical ability to dial up the defense, you're right. I think maybe a league average or maybe even a little bit better is in play at this point. And then when you look, you know, smaller minutes, about 215 minutes, when Reeves and Doncic are on the court together, they have a plus 14.6 net rating. And this is still with LeBron James being out. So, yeah, I think this Lakers team is looking kind of feisty, Ben.
Yeah, they're an interesting team. We will come back to them in a second as we sort this out. But sorry, you're supposed to ask me about another team. Sorry, I was going to ask you.
All right, who do I want to ask about? What about a fascination of ours? What are you thinking about the Miami Heat right now?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, absolutely.
They are very competitive. They are very competitive, and I think there's a little bit of what we saw last year with Memphis, where during the regular season, they feel a little bit like a machine because you see them from night to night, and teams are not used to having to just guard in isolation and play one-on-one basketball all the time. So it takes its toll, and they circle in a bunch of guys in the lineup, Pelle Larson and Davion Mitchell and Andrew Wiggins and just all these guys that can get downhill. Nikola Jovic with his matchup, Bam Adebayo shooting threes or taking his matchup off the dribble. And it's just this perpetual coming at you. And that means sometimes the shots are off and they're going to lose to teams they shouldn't, quote unquote, lose to. And sometimes they're going to play better teams and they're just going to be a pain in the butt. And, they'll play 2 or 3 games against the top team and win 1 or 2 of those games. So I think when we look playoff facing, they're a little lower for me, but I do expect them to continue to churn and burn, if you will, in the regular season with an offense that, based on the personnel and based on what you'd expect from prior years, for them to come in and be around average without Tyler Hero to start the year, I think it's just a testament to Eric Spoelstra's creativity and his coaching, and just another notch to put, just another little thing to add to the plaque when he goes to Springfield, Massachusetts, and is inducted into the James Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame.
One of my favorite things this season, one of the pleasures, is seeing Jaime Jaquez get the ball and back up 10 feet behind the 3-point line and then just get ahead of steam. And then he just kind of has this like shifty, I don't know which way he's going. And all of a sudden he's by somebody. And then he kind of has this little flurry of floaters and he can turn around. He likes to make these little dump offs. They're a really fun team. Do you ever wonder, Ben, if this kind of gimmicky, like, are you concerned that this is something that if a playoff defense was really dialed into, that you could figure out a counter to it fairly quickly?
I'm concerned and ashamed that I forgot to bring up Jaime Jaquez when talking about Heat players cooking defenders off the dribble. That guy's so fun to watch in the system. In this system, when you give him a ton of space. I've thought about your question for a long time, how gimmicky this is, what the counter would be. I mean, on one hand, teams are just going zone, and that kind of forces you to clog up the driving lanes and change the geometric configuration of these driving gaps that they're trying to create. Because it's like, if you're in man, I don't want to send help to Jaime Jaquez 40 feet away from the basket. He's not Giannis Antetokounmpo on the scouting report. How could you even have a scouting report, Cody, that's like every Heat player we need to build a wall for? And that's what Miami wants you to do. They want you to come over, and that's when the fun really begins, because they move the ball really quickly, and then you attack the closeout into the space that you've just created as the defense is recovering. So I can't call it gimmicky because I don't see an obvious solution yet outside of something like zones. But I just think between their talent level and between what would happen in a playoff series, if you got used to this and you got to see it more, we saw it a little bit last year with certain teams being able to game plan for Memphis. The more they saw that kind of offense, a very similar offense, I just can't put them in our, top contending tiers. And I'm not sure they're better than some of these middle-class teams. I think, to me, this San Antonio, Detroit, the Lakers, probably Atlanta, those are nice upper middle-class teams. I think I'd put Miami in the next group of what middle class team. What's regular middle class? What's
just the regular middle class?
What's that called? Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. Looking at the comments really quickly, someone says Cody is a big live golf guy. Are those the villains in the new Adam Sandler movie that he's going against? The ones that like replace their Achilles tendon or something like that? I don't know what this person's talking about.
There's the PGA Tour, and there's live golf.
Yeah, that's from the Happy Gilmore too, right? Like,
no, that's the other way. No,
this is like a real thing.
Yeah, we're going back to basketball. That's a real thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a reference to a terrible movie that came out this summer.
This is amazing.
I think Happy Gilmore 2 barely counts as a movie. Like, that was just a series of bits. Let me ask you about a super lurking team. Like, this team is in the depths. Like, they are in the depths.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see the vision. Maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe. What do you think about the Philadelphia 76ers?
You think they're lurking in the depths? Wow.
What if Embiid keeps ramping up then? What if he keeps ramping?
No,
up?
I think unfortunately Embiid looks done.
Okay.
And I think he was trying to use the beginning of the season to ramp up, where in the past he may have said, I'm not going to deal with this criticism. I'm not going to put my body in harm. I'm going to deal with this behind the scenes, and I'm going to take my time. It feels like, based on that huge article that came out over the summer about him and this process he's gone through, I guess pun intended. I didn't mean to say that word. Basically, at this point in time, he's like, let me go out and play through this and start to feel it out on the court. I can contribute as much as I can. That's how I want to handle this. And then, boom, knee problem. When you're trying to ramp up. Like, it wasn't like he looked like 80 or 90% and then knee problem. He was at like 30% and then knee problem. So I think, unfortunately for Embiid, it's extremely unlikely that we get anything resembling the MVP level player back. And I think it's the same challenge with Paul George, where we have no idea what's left in Paul George's tank after an extremely bumpy 2025 season. So Philly, to me, is a team more of the future, building around Tyrese Maxey, the Blur. Does anyone have the nickname the Blur in the NBA? Because Tyrese Maxey he feels like a blur to me when I watch him play, and he's fantastic and he's exciting. And they have other young players, obviously VJ Edgecombe, Jared McCain from last year, Cody's favorite player, Adem Bona, Andre Drummond, Cody's second favorite player. They have a lot of Cody players.
They have a lot of Cody players.
Yeah. So I think they're actually pretty good. But I do think I do think all those other teams we mentioned are in a group above.
Adem Bona, we have to talk about for a second, because I think I sent a block to the Thing Basketball people. He had this block the other day that looked like one of those Wilt Chamberlain blocks where like it stops when the camera's flashing in the background and you just see like this figure like near the top of the backboard. He was very clearly above the square pinning it up there. I don't remember which game it was, but it was truly one of the great blocks that I can remember seeing. And then Andre Drummond, man, like I feel like I'm the only person on earth that has been just respecting this man's prowess on the glass.
His 3-point shooting.
His corner 3-point shooting. The fact that he can lock up guys. There was a game recently where last possession of the game, was it against the Celtics? Was it against the Celtics when he stepped out there? I think he disrupted a Derek White play and kind of got him to push it back a little bit, where he had to fire up a 40-footer and they ended up missing at the buzzer. I mean, he just does what he needs to do. I love Andre Drummond out there, but you're right. I don't know. Question about the nicknames. Leandro Barbosa was the Brazilian.
Yeah.
Is that too close?
It might be too close.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned the Celtics. I think the Celtics are better than the 76ers.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Say more.
I just think they're a feisty little team to play. I don't think they have a high ceiling, but I think they're competitive. I think they have a lot of dynamic scorers and ball handlers, and they play with an incredible amount of pace. And if they can just figure out whatever's going on with the revolving door at power forward / Jason Tatum is coming back in March or whatever is going on with his rehab. Yes, you're still lacking the centers. Yes, this is a different team than the super top heavy championship level Celtics team from the past that starred Drew Holiday and then also had Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford. But I think they're pretty good. And I think they're probably a little bit better than Philly.
I think one thing it's kind of made me a little irritated about the Celtics discourse is I think people are pointing a lot to some Derek White possessions and being like, oh, he's so much less efficient this year. Everyone talking about Derek White being look at how dumb these people are.
This cannot be a real thing, right?
I think it's real.
You think it's real. You don't think at this point the social internet is just a bunch of AI schlop. You think these are real things. You think somewhere there was like an entire world of thousands of people being like, you wait for Derek White to get his own. You watch that Derek White. He's going to be averaging 25 points a game on 65% true shooting. I've literally never heard anyone say that. And I drink and consume way too much basketball for my own good, and I cannot recommend watching this much basketball to anyone.
Well, if you look at the true shooting percentage of Derek White starting in 2023, shot 60% true shooting, 61% true shooting, 60% true shooting, and then all of a sudden, when this perfect ecosystem is gone, 48% true shooting. And I think people are pointing to that and being like, "Oh, it's a fake all-star." But I think if you watch the Celtics, if you actually watch the all-star
team, what's going on?
Well, the fake nerd all-star, because there was the big push last year. It's like, actually, Derek White might be an all-star.
No, the big push wasn't last year. The big push was 2 years ago when JJ Redick kept pounding the table and saying he should be an all-star. Yeah, I guess if Lakers coach JJ Redick is a big nerd, then I guess that's the standard. Keep going, Cody. I'll get out of your way.
Anyway, when you watch the Celtics, if you actually watch basketball games to see what's going on here, Derek White does so many Derek White things. Like, if you still watch what's going on, he has the essence, the hustle plays, right? The extra passing, the when he's able to spot up, he can make those spot up shots. But there is still the player that if you have him be the third or fourth best offensive player is just going to thrive there. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, so it's really not even worth going to. But Derek White is still just fantastic. And when Jason Tatum returns and, we see them making the playoff push, the people will come back to Derek White. They will return to this man.
The playoff push. They don't need Tatum for the playoff push. They need Tatum to win the Eastern Conference, Cody. Where should we put the Celtics? Is if the Eastern Conference needs a de facto default kind of sleeper team, where should we put? What tier should we put them in? Should we put them in the if Jason Tatum comes back tier?
You're pretty confident about a team that is 11th in the East right now.
Oh, don't worry about that.
That is East.
Those win losses are those are just minor details.
So what do you think is more likely? Jason Tatum coming back and making them more interesting, or the Orlando Magic figuring it out?
Oh, Jason Tatum coming back by far.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, if we're just in fantasy land and marking the Celtics in for like the easy playoff push.
What do you mean fantasy land? What do you?
They're 11th in the East. The only teams under them are trying to lose.
Wait a second. Time out. We've only played a handful of games and they've lost a number of very close games that you don't necessarily expect to lose that many close games. They've had that in a short period of time, and schedule matters when you've only played 13 or 14 games or whatever it is. So I look at them, I see a team that's played well to start the year, that can only get better, that's been very, very competitive. And then I look at the Eastern Conference and I go, okay, let's review what we talked about today. Cleveland, the New York Knicks, the Detroit Pistons. We've mentioned the Atlanta Hawks. Those are 4 teams. You get 8 playoff spots.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that's the most dead air we've ever had on this podcast.
I don't know. I mean, I love Hugo Gonzalez as much as the next guy, and I think he's spectacular.
Hugo. Yeah.
Hugo. I said Hugo. I have too much.
I think the H is silent there. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like an Olajuwon situation here. I don't know. When you have Keita, you have Tillman, the big situation to me, like these are some nice guys that can come off the bench and give you 18 minutes, 20 minutes or something like that. I'm very nervous about the depth of that position. I think I'm much more concerned about than I think you might be. So I think I'm probably a little bit lower on how the Celtics are going right now.
Okay, so you don't even have the Celtics in the middle class.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Right now.
All right. Well, that's another big disagreement we have. We'll have to put it in the tablets and come back and check it later after it's been tableted.
When Giannis is on the court this season, the Bucks have a +8 net rating.
Are you trying to say that the Bucks should be in the upper middle class?
When Giannis is not on the court, they have a -11.
I have two more teams I want to ask you about before we get out of here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the Bucks are not one of them?
You were supposed to rapid fire teams at me, Cody.
What about Golden State Warriors?
The Golden State Warriors is one of them. I kind of feel like they're in this middle class right now.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other teams we mentioned earlier, Golden State is the reason I wanted to bring them up and talk about them is because I just go back to where I was at the beginning of the year. Regular season, you're very old. There's an age tax. I mean, the Clippers have apparently their entire team is aged out, right? We'll see what happens there. But the league right now is, we've talked about it. You want that fit, you want that high-end talent, and you want depth. But in addition to requiring those things and requiring depth is the pace and the intensity, the speed of the game is so fast, up and down, up and down, up and down. And maybe that's adding a little bit if you lose a step and you have too many players that are kind of aged out. And Jimmy Butler, like, we're getting some major regular season Jimmy Butler every time I check in on Golden State. If there's a playoff Jimmy Butler in there, if there's a healthy Stephen Curry and he couldn't make it through the playoffs last year, if Jonathan Kuminga can deliver in the playoffs, I think they become an interesting playoff team. But right now, for the regular season, I would not put them at the top of the show like those teams we talked about.
I think the issue is what we saw in the playoffs last year is when Steph Curry goes down, we didn't get the 50-point Jimmy Butler against the Bucks Jimmy Butler, right? I don't know how much more ramping up there is for somebody like that. So it feels like what you see is what you get at this point for the Warriors. And like you said, maybe that's an interesting enough, just here's the middle class team right now. So I think it's a very fair team to toss in here at the moment.
Okay. The other team, I guess I'll ask about them, is the Bucks. Yeah.
Okay. So Giannis is very good at the game of basketball. He was a spectacular player. And we talked about the simplified offense.
What if he were not allowed to travel an offensive foul?
Well, unfortunately for you and your agenda, Ben, that is not the world we live in. He is allowed to shove people. He can take 4 steps after every gather step.
Just want to note. He's not the only one that does it. I'm just curious because he's completely unstoppable this year with the new officiating. Whatever is good, we're gonna have to talk about this at some point. I don't even know what to make of the way the game of basketball is officiated in the NBA anymore. And like the reason that's relevant here is not to knock Giannis. It's to say I don't know how you stop. He's unbelievable right now. He's completely unstoppable. He's completely unguardable. I'm surprised he doesn't average 40. I'm surprised he doesn't have better numbers than Nikola Jokic.
The issue, though, is the supporting cast. It's the opposite of the Nuggets. Like, there's not a lot of creation. I think the Ryan Rollins excitement to start the season, it's cooled off just a little bit more. I think he's an interesting young player. I like Ryan Rollins, but I don't think he's going to be the savior that everybody wants. And I don't see where there's much creation coming from outside of Giannis. So, in terms of seeing a player go crazy in a playoff series where you're going to get a ton of highlights, he's going to have a couple 40-point games. Maybe they go down valiantly in 5 or 6 games. That might happen. But I think some of the teams we've talked about, the Bucks are probably in the middle class, but on the lower end of what we are seeing there.
I just want to call poppycock as well on the Derek White thing from earlier, because Derek White in the last 3 years with the Celtics, Derek White averaged 25 points per 75 on 59% true shooting when Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Drew Holiday were on the bench. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Drew Holiday on the bench, 59% true shooting. I just think this is absolutely ridiculous. Do you have
anything
else?
Like 100 years of that, like, you see this newfangled Twitter and what they're saying? It's pure poppycock. Incredible
to support this show, patreon.com/thinkingbasketball, where the stats board is live. You can get all these stats. Well, maybe not that last Derek White stat. I had to call up the stat department on that one to get the special pull just to stick it to these people. Whatever AI bot came up with that talking point about Derek. So you think Derek White's going to shoot 48% true shooting for the entire NBA season in the year of our Lord 2026?
No, I don't think that. I was responding to the discourse. Can I bring up one more team we haven't talked about?
Another team after the credits?
After the credits. It's
the Portland Trailblazers?
No, I think just in terms of record, I think we have to shout them out.
Why are you hurting my heart? The Portland Trailblazers are a middle-class team that can make the playoffs.
Listen, don't turn me into the guy that doesn't want to talk about the Blazers, right? I was going to see if I could make it through the episode without bringing up Drew Holiday, and here you are, just setting me up.
I brought him up with the Derek White poppycock stat. Go ahead.
The Toronto Raptors are 9-5 and third in the East right now.
Did we not say them?
No, we didn't bring up the Raptors.
They're in the middle class too.
Okay. They're the Scotty Barnes at 5 lineups are really fun. I've enjoyed seeing what Barnes is doing, and I think we're starting to see a little bit more of the Barnes experience that we're all imagining. I've been very high on Scotty Barnes over the last couple of years, and my people have been very excited, Ben. Very excited.
He's fun at the 5. So can we round this out? Can we summarize what we just did?
No.
The inner circle. No. We're both sober. That's crazy. The Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets are in the inner circle.
Yep.
Just outside the inner circle is Houston and Cleveland.
Yep.
Then in a tier that we don't know what to do with, they're calling it the Knicks tier, we're going to put the New York Knicks.
And are the Spurs also in that tier?
No, I can't put the Spurs in that tier.
Okay.
They're too young. They're way too young. In the upper middle class, I have the Lakers, Minnesota, Atlanta, Detroit, San Antonio in some order. In the middle class, I have Miami, Boston, Philadelphia, Toronto, Portland, Milwaukee. Should we put Chicago in there?
Maybe.
Yeah. Or is Chicago like a Phoenix-y, like a Phoenix, Chicago, Phoenix, Orlando kind of thing going on with those teams.
Yeah, I think that sounds more fair.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. Anyway, did you have any final thoughts on this show before we get out of here?
Somebody just made a comment here that I'm just missing all the news. Giannis is out 1 to 2 weeks. So we're at that point of the season where not only when you're trying to scout teams, you're trying to avoid the dregs of the NBA, but you're also trying to find teams that have their players that are healthy out there. So it's going to be like a game of whack-a-mole to try and figure out who we're going to be watching coming up.
Thanks for listening all the way on this one, and hope you are having a great day.